Hello, my lovely. Welcome back to the Leader Within podcast. I'm your host, Sue-Ann Higgins. And if you're new here, this is the place where we untangle those thoughts that keep you stuck and help you lead with clarity, passion, and purpose, encouraging you to lead, communicate, and show up differently. If you've been with me since episode 1, you know we've been on a journey together where we've explored the try harder traps of leadership that keep you spinning your wheels. We've mapped out your inner world, your outer world, and the external world around you. And just last episode, we talked about creating your living legacy. That impact you leave within people today, not someday in the future. Today, I want to tackle something that's creating a lot of mental noise for leaders right now. And it's triggering every single try harder trap of leadership we've discussed. And I'm talking about AI and more specifically, the fear that you need to master it or be left behind. But what if I told you that fear is keeping you trapped in the very patterns we've been working hard to break? And what if the solution isn't to try harder to keep up, but it's to reconstruct how you think about AI and your role as a leader? You know, I keep hearing this from leaders, either I can't use AI for important work because people will think I'm not capable, or real leaders do everything themselves. They don't need AI, or I need to learn every AI tool or I'll get left behind. And I get why you think that. We've been conditioned to believe that effort equals worth, that struggling means dedication, that if you use tools to make your job easier, somehow that's cheating or taking shortcuts. This is the ultimate try harder trap, isn't it? The belief that you have to master yet another thing, work even harder to stay relevant, or prove yourself over again in this new and very fast changing landscape. But let me ask you, does every architect draw their blueprints by hand because CAD software shows they're not real architects? Of course not. That would just be ridiculous. Here's what really is happening. While you're exhausting yourself, either trying to become an AI expert on top of everything you're managing or completely ignoring AI, you're falling deeper into a performance plateau. That plateau we talked about in episode 3. You're working harder, but getting further and further away from the strategic leadership you're capable of. And here's the irony. AI isn't just another thing you need to master to prove your worth. It's the tool that can help you escape the try harder traps altogether. The new way to look at this, AI isn't about doing less work. It's about doing the right work. When AI handles the cognitive clutter, you're free to focus on what makes you irreplaceable. Your strategic thinking, your emotional fluency, and the ability to create the kind of human connection that transforms teams and organisations. If you keep believing that you need to outperform AI or ignore it, or become a tech expert in AI to stay valuable, you'll be the leader working twice as hard while others are working twice as smart. You'll be busy trying to keep up with technology or keep up with your increasing workload, that you'll miss developing the distinctly human leadership capabilities that no algorithm can replace. Let me tell you about a pattern I'm seeing constantly as I work with leaders. I'm going to call this composite leader Rachel because, as you know, I like to protect my clients' confidentiality. Rachel represents the experience of many amazing women I've coached. Rachel is a senior operations leader. She's brilliant at what she does, but caught up in what that we identify as the try harder trap of perfectionism. Every presentation has to be flawless, every email perfectly crafted, every analysis exhaustively thorough. She spends every Sunday preparing for her week ahead, preparing talking points for meetings, drafting responses to emails she possibly hasn't even received yet. When AI started becoming mainstream in organisations, Rachel's response was predictable. At first, she ignored it, and then she decided she needed to become an AI expert. She started staying up late watching YouTube tutorials, taking online courses, and mastering every tool. Remember the brain science we uncovered in episode 6? Rachel's amygdala is constantly in threat detection mode. First, the threat of looking unprepared. Now, the threat of being left behind by technology. Her prefrontal cortex, that Goldilocks of the brain, is starved of the neurochemicals that helps her make the best decisions. This is the moment when leaders like Rachel say something I hear all the time. I feel like I'm drowning. I have to be perfect at my job and perfect at AI, and I'm failing at both. That's when we have the breakthrough conversation in our coaching work. The question I ask leaders like Rachel is, what if you don't need to become an AI expert? What if you only need to become an AI savvy leader? Here's what we discover together. Rachel doesn't need to master AI. She needs AI to help her escape the perfectionism or the overwhelm that is strangling her leadership. Instead of spending hours on Sunday afternoon looking at her week ahead, researching every agenda item from scratch, she starts feeding information into AI and asking it to identify themes, potential questions, and strategic talking points, not to create the perfect presentation for her, but to give her a starting point so that she can focus on the strategic insights, the human connection, and dynamics. The result, her prep time goes from 4 hours to 30 minutes. The quality of her contribution goes up dramatically because now, instead of her brain being cluttered with all that detail, she can focus on the strategic connections, the upper level thinking, the questions that she needs to ask. She can see patterns and she can think about the emotional dynamics in the room. She can present during meetings instead of frantically checking her notes or frantically trying to take notes. This is what happens when leaders like Rachel make the shift. They tell me, AI is amazing. I finally feel like a leader I always knew I could be. I'm not just keeping up anymore, I'm thinking ahead. And people are commenting on how much more strategic and insightful I've become. That's the difference between falling into a try harder trap with AI and using AI to escape those try harder traps altogether. Let's get a little bit nerdy again. I always like to unpack the brain science and hear how it directly connects to everything we've been building together. Remember in episode 6, we talked about your prefrontal cortex needing 80% of your neurochemical resources for you to do your best thinking. When your brain is overwhelmed with routine cognitive tasks, the kind of things that AI can handle, those neurochemicals get diverted to your limbic system to manage your cognitive load. It's like trying to have a strategic conversation when someone's blasting loud music in the background. You may be able to do it, but you're certainly not thinking your best. This is why so many amazing women get trapped in the mind traps we discussed in episode 5. When your prefrontal cortex is starved, you're more likely to catastrophize, exaggerate the negative, or get stuck into those argumentative patterns of thinking or communicating. When AI handles all that cognitive clutter, the research, the initial drafts, the organising data, it's like turning off that background noise, and suddenly your prefrontal cortex can focus on what it does best: pattern recognition, strategic thinking, and emotional fluency. This directly connects to the 5 gatekeepers of human behaviour. We explored that in episode 7. When your sense of autonomy increases because you've chosen how to use the tools rather than being enslaved by manual processes, your brain actually performs better. The research shows that when you feel more in control of your environment, our testosterone levels increase and our cortisol levels decrease. This is the ideal hormonal profile for leadership presence, and women can achieve that too, even though we have lower levels of testosterone. But here's the key insight: AI doesn't just help with efficiency, it helps with cognitive sovereignty. You're taking back control of where your brain spends its energy. Instead of your thoughts being tangled up in those routine tasks, you now have the mental space for the strategic insights that set you apart. Instead of being reactive, you're more proactive. Instead of being overwhelmed, you're more intentional. This is how AI becomes a tool for escaping the try harder traps of leadership, not creating new try harder traps. So now it's time to get into some practical tools. Let's practice some reconstructed thinking here. We use using the framework we explored in episode 9. The old thought: I need to master AI or I'll be left behind. Let's examine this thought. Is this helping you? Is it moving you to the strategic trailblazer mapped out in episode 4? Or is it keeping you stuck in the performance plateau? Here's the new reconstructed thought: AI is a tool that can help me focus on leadership that only I can provide. Feel the difference? One thought creates urgency and overwhelm. The other creates possibility and clarity. Let's try another thought. The old thought: using AI means I'm not smart enough to do it myself. Reconstructed thought: using AI strategically demonstrates my leadership savviness. Remember what we learned in episode 10 about the weaponized kindness trap? Sometimes our resistance to using helpful tools comes from that same place. We think we have to do everything ourselves to keep proving we care. But the leader who thrives in the next decade won't be the ones who can do everything manually. They'll be the ones who can orchestrate those resources, human and artificial, to create the biggest impact. And here's the truth that connects us back to episode 11. Your worth as a leader isn't determined by how hard you work or how many tools you've mastered. It's determined by the clarity of your thinking, the wisdom of your decisions, and the positive impact it creates. Now, you might be thinking, this sounds great, Sue-Ann, but how do I actually do this without falling into a try harder trap of leadership? Let's use the REACH formula we introduced in episode 9, but with an AI twist. R is for rethink. Instead of seeing AI as something you need to master, see it as a cognitive assistant that helps you escape the try harder traps of leadership. E for explore. Pick one specific try harder trap you're currently experiencing. It may be perfectionism, mind reading, overwhelm. Choose an AI prompt that specifically addresses that trap. A, acquire. Start with one simple use case. If you're in the perfectionism trap, use AI to create first drafts. If you're in the mind trap, use AI to help you prepare for that next difficult conversation with multiple perspectives. C is for coach. This is where you can experiment. It's crucial actually to experiment. Pay attention to how it's affecting your mental state, your decision making, and your leadership presence. And H for home. Once you find what works, expand thoughtfully. Ask, is this helping me become a more strategic leader, or am I adding more complexity? The key is to always add your own human insight, your emotional fluency, your understanding of people and the dynamics involved. So here's what I want you to do in the next week. First, identify which try harder trap is your biggest challenge right now. Is it perfectionism, overwhelm, mind reading, people pleasing? Then ask yourself, what routine cognitive work am I doing that feeds this trap? And finally, experiment with using AI prompts to help you handle routine work so that you can focus on the strategic and human elements that require your unique insight. For example, if you're trapped in the perfectionism trap with presentations, use AI to create your first draft. Then spend your energy on the strategic insights and the storytelling that makes that presentation compelling. If you're in the overwhelm trap, use AI to summarize information and identify key themes. Then focus your brain on the strategic decisions and human connections. Remember, you're not aiming to become a tech expert. You're becoming an AI savvy leader who uses technology strategically. As we wrap up, I want you to remember this. AI isn't about replacing your humanity or making you work harder to keep up. It's about amplifying your unique human capabilities. When you're not buried in cognitive clutter, you have the space to think strategically, the emotional fluency, and the authentic connection that makes you such an amazing leader. You're not behind because you haven't mastered every AI tool. You're exactly where you need to be, learning to lead as an AI savvy leader in a world that's evolving very fast. You're learning to use that evolution to escape the very try harder traps that are currently holding you back. In the next episode, we're going to go deeper into how AI can specifically help you break free from perfectionism that keeps so many women playing small. Until then, keep leading from within, my lovely. And remember, you're only one reconstructed thought away from the breakthrough you deserve in your leadership journey and in your life. Hey, hang on. Before you go, I have some powerful resources for you. If today's episode has you thinking about how AI can help you escape those try harder traps we've been exploring, I've got 2 resources that will take your leadership to the next level. The first is if you're ready to stop being the invisible leader who works twice as hard and gets half the recognition, grab my free guide, From Invisible to Influential, at sue-ann.com.au/invisible. This will show you exactly how to step into your leadership presence and get the visibility you deserve. And if you want to dive even deeper into becoming an AI-savvy leader who uses technology strategically rather than falling into the new try-harder traps it brings, join me in my free masterclass at sue-ann.com.au/masterclass. I'll walk you through the exact framework for using AI and amplify your leadership presence, not dilute it. Both these resources are completely free. They're designed to help you think, communicate, and show up differently. Don't wait for your organisation to offer these tools. Take charge of your leadership development today. That's sue-ann.com.au/invisible for the guide and sue-ann.com.au/masterclass for the masterclass. I'll see you there.